So in this video tutorial, we are going to learn about the control flow statements in Python programming. I am Dr. C. Immaculate Mary, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Computer Science, Srishrada College for Women, Autonomous, Salem 16. After watching this video tutorial, you will be familiar to use the control flow statements such as if else, and if else statements to transfer the control from one part of the program to another part. And you'll be able to write while and for loops to run one or more statements repeatedly. And you can also control the flow of execution using break and continue statements, and you'll get the knowledge to improve the readability of code by incorporating exception handling mechanisms through the try except blocks. Flow statements in Python programming language are classified into three categories. First one is sequential control flow statements, and the second one is decision control flow statements, and the third one loop control flow statements. As far as the first category is concerned, the statements executed sequentially, the order in which they appear. Whereas in the second category, based on some condition, the control will pass on to this next place, or it may skip the execution of some block. And as far as third category is concerned, it will just repetitively execute some set of statements until a termination condition occurs. This is a sample flowchart which explains the sequential flow statements. Just it will start and some set of executable statements, and it will just have some processing and it will stop the process. So this is a sequential flow statement. The if decision control flow statement starts with the if keyword and ends with a colon. That expression in an if statement should be a Boolean expression. So it will be evaluated, either it will be true or false. Based on that condition, it will be proceeded to the next flow of control. The if statement decides whether to run some particular statement or not, depending upon the value of the Boolean expression. If the Boolean expression evaluates to true, then statements in the if block will be executed. Otherwise, the result is false, then none of the statements are executed. So next statement is if else decision control flow. An if statement can also be followed by an else statement, which is optional. And this statement allows us for a two-way decision. And if the statement 1 will be executed if the Boolean expression is true, or else it will just execute the second statement. The if elif else is a decision control flow statement, and this will be if the condition isn't it true, but if we want to check for the next condition, then we can make use of the if elif else statement. Nested if statements in Python are conditional statements placed inside another if statement. They allow for checking multiple conditions in a hierarchical manner. A while loop in Python is used to repeatedly execute a block of code as long as a condition remains true. So this is the Flow of control in the while loop. A for loop in Python is used to iterate over a sequence of items such as list, tuple, string, or range. And it executes a block of code for each item in the sequence. For loops are particularly useful when the number of iterations in is known in advance. This is the general flowchart for the for loop. While we are just making use of the loops in the programming, suppose we want to alter their execution, we can just make use of the break and continue statements, which are in turn it is some control flow statements. We can surely that we can just make use this break and continue. And as far as break is concerned, it instantly exits the loop and jumps to the first line after the loop. And whereas the continue statement skips the current iteration and moves to the next one within the loop. So both the break and continue statements will work in while loop and the for loops. And we'll have the greater control over the loop execution for more efficient coding. So in brief, in a nutshell, we can say break is nothing but exit loop and continue is nothing but a skip iteration. So through this picture, we can very well understand break, continue and the pass statements. We can see a sample of how you can just apply a break statement in the loop. So we have taken up a while loop, which is an infinite loop. So in the sense that it will continuously, it will just give the output without having any stop. But suppose you want to apply a break, and we can just stop in any iteration. So specifically that in this case that it is if n is greater than 2, it will just stop the programming sequence by using the break statement. We'll see the catching exceptions using try and except statement. Actually, there are two distinguishable kinds of errors being possible. One is syntax error, second one is exceptions. The syntax errors also we can just, it could be known as parsing errors or perhaps the most common kind of complaint. So in order to address syntax errors in Python code, we should systematically review the code, and we need to pay close attention to the error messages provided by the interpreter. And the second thing is exceptions, and the errors which are detected during the execution are called exceptions. The errors detected during the execution are called exceptions. So these exceptions are to be handled, and the exception handling is one of the most important feature of Python programming language that will allows us to handle the errors caused by exceptions. Even if a statement or an expression is syntactically correct, it may cause an error when an attempt is made to execute it. So the handling of exceptions, which ensures that the flow of program does not get interrupted when an exception occurs, which is done by trapping runtime errors. And handling above the exceptions results in execution of all the statements in the program. So these are all the exception handling clauses: try, except, else, and finally. And these are all the blocks which could be included in each class. In the try class, that we can just have the code to be executed, and in the except we can just include the code to execute in case of error, and in the else class we can have a code to execute in case of no error, and the finally class we can have a code to execute in all the cases. This is a sample where we can generate an error within the try block, and since x is not defined, it will just raise an exception. So this is a sample program which will handle the zero division error. So divide by 0 which leads to infinity, so that has to be handled. So by using the try except block, we can just handle this error. This is the general syntax in order to try exception handling. So this is a program where we have handled value error exception. While we do the programming, so these are all the errors that could that has to be handled by the handling mechanism, exception handling mechanism. Arithmetic error, name error, value error, type error, and all these errors, and the division, zero division error, exception group, then floating point error, permission error, file not found. So all these errors are to be handled by using the exception handling mechanism. Thank you for watching the video tutorial.